Thank you for joining today. My name is Ryan Mason, and I am an ABD PhD candidate here at UK in the Exercise Physiology Department, and I'm also an exercise physiologist with UK Health and Wellness. And this month we are celebrating the use of barbells, and basically we're starting off with this Facebook Live. I'm going to be talking about some safety tips whenever it comes to using barbell training, and then we'll also talk about some of the pop-up classes that we have going on throughout the month, led by our GAs. So first, whenever we talk about performing barbell movements can be some of the more dangerous things that you do in the gym, but they also have a really great benefit as well. So we always want to make sure that initially we warm up properly. And so there are three various steps to performing a correct warm up. The first part of our warm up is going to be a general warm up. So what we're looking for out of this portion is to elevate body temperature. We should see an increase in respiration rate. We also should see an increase in heart rate. So a good example of this is just performing some type of various cardio for approximately 5 minutes. So it doesn't really matter what you choose, but just keep in mind the more moving parts you have, the more actual parts of your body you are warming up. So something like an elliptical, even a treadmill, Stairmaster, anything like that would be good for this general warm-up phase. The next area is a dynamic or mobility warm-up. So with this, what we're looking for is really looking at taking the body through a range of motion. We also want to make this kind of specific to the area of the body we're working. So for example, if you're doing a bench press day with a barbell, you want to make sure that you're warming up kind of thoracic spine and the shoulders and upper body. Whereas if you're doing a lower body day or a squat day, you would want that specific that dynamic warm up to be more specific to the lower body. So some examples of this would be perhaps stretching overhead with a broomstick, performing shoulder rotations while laying on the ground for your upper body. Then for the lower body, doing lunges, kind of multi-directional lunges, maybe forward, side to side, back, really working with the hips there. And then you could do something like a strider, like a lunge stretch for the lower body. And then if you're doing upper and lower body workouts on the same day, you want to make sure that you have a mixed dynamic or mobility warm-up where you're doing something for upper body and something for lower body. So the next portion is something, the next part of warm-up is something that I see people neglect over and over, and that's going to be the exercise specific warm-up. So really all you need to do with this is start at a very light weight. So usually the bar is sufficient for starting, and then you want to always gradually increase weight towards your working reps. So I can't tell you how many people I see come into the gym and for example, bench press is notorious. People go over, put 225 pounds on the bench and then start going without doing any warm-up whatsoever. And this is a really great way to tear a pec, tear some connective tissue, because you haven't went through the proper procedures to be able to lift that weight effectively and safely. So for this exercise specific warm-up, we are going to, whatever lift we're doing, bench press, squat, deadlift, overhead press, we're going to start with a bar and then progressively add weight. Okay, so you always want to do at least 2 warm-up sets. So even if you are working up to just a very small weight, you still want to do 2 warm-up sets before you get into your working set. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is bracing. So bracing is very, very important whenever you're doing barbell movements. And what I mean by bracing is just making sure that your core stays strong and you maintain the integrity of your spine while you're lifting weights. So this has a lot of transfer over to everyday life. You really, anytime you pick something up, you should be bracing. You don't want to even pick up groceries, a kid, anything with a spine that is not secure and strong. So there are 2 parts of bracing, 3 depending on what type of lift that you're doing. So the first part is a stomach contraction. So the easiest way to think about this, if you don't really know how to tighten your abdominal muscles, is what would happen if you thought I was going to hit you in the stomach. So most people know how that kind of tense feeling is. So that's the first thing. Whenever you do that, you're basically tightening the muscles that go from your hips to your ribs. And what we're going to do is, with those muscles tight, then we're going to hold an isometric contraction or a static contraction, where we no longer are going to allow that distance to change. Then the second part is we are going to retract our shoulder blades and pull them down. Okay, so this sets our thoracic spine and contracts all the muscles around the upper portion of our spine so that we are now braced there. Okay, so it's kind of an awkward feeling, especially if you're not used to it. Tightening the stomach, retracting the shoulder blades, pulling them down, and you kind of feel just abnormal. But this is the healthiest and the safest position we can put our spine in. Now the third part of that brace that I talked about is squeezing the glutes. So whenever we squeeze our glutes, it locks our pelvis into place. And if we're doing any type of movement that is done standing, we also want to make sure that we are locking those glutes in, setting the pelvis, and then keeping erect spine all the way from pelvis to the back of your head. And if you go through all these steps and make sure that we are maintaining the integrity of the spine, it will really help us decrease the risk of injury that can be associated with barbell movements. So that's pretty much everything that I'm going to cover in this little safety video, but I would like to now mention what else we have going on this month, with our pop-up classes. So we're going to be featuring 2 pop-up classes, 2 for deadlift, 2 for squat, and 2 for bench press. So if you are a MoveWell member and you'd like to stop by and get some hands-on instructional technique from 2 of our GAs, feel free to come to any of these classes. These are available online as well, for you to go out and check the dates. But the first one we have is March 9th at 5 p.m. at Seton Center, and that's going to be on the deadlift, taught by Donnie. Then on March 10th at 12:30 p.m. at Export, Abby's going to be going over squat technique. March 12th at 5:30 p.m. at Export, Donnie's going to be instructing bench press. Then March 25th at 12 p.m. at Seton Center, Abby will be covering bench press. At March 26th at 11 a.m., Abby will be covering deadlift at Export Street. And then March 30th at 12 p.m., Donnie will be covering squats at Export Street. So if you would like to get some hands-on technique, please stop by. We'd love to have you at one of our pop-up classes. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone listening.